Welcome, everybody. It is March Madness time. It is March 2nd here at West Coast Preps. This is Chris Jackson, joined here by Noah Glosson for our West Coast Preps podcast. What did I say, right? March Madness. Craziness has already happened across Northern California. The playoff basketball scene has started for regionals. And our first day on Tuesday was about as eventful as can be. And there was upsets everywhere. Number one seeds going down, number two seeds going down. We've got, I believe, a 10-15 matchup tonight. Something you would see almost in the NCAA tournament, too. Kind of stuff you're going to be having in those bracket busters here in another week or so when you start making those. But we're getting to the high school level, too, aren't we, Noah? Right here in Northern California.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of happy Bay Area teams on Tuesday went into the Central Valley, into Sacramento, into Fresno, and emerged victorious. We saw Joey Kennedy's incredible career at University continue as his team pulled out a 7-point overtime win over a tough Jesuit team. San Ramon Valley took down Clovis North. Salesian went in and took down Folsom. California took down Sacramento, and many others. They went in there and they played really, really well. And they're coming back home with a victory. And some of them are going to come back for a home game.
Yeah, the craziness that ensued was Sacred Heart Prep, a 15 seed, going to Folsom on the road. Sam Norris hits a game winner, and he and TJ O'Brien had some great games. Sacred Heart Prep advances, and San Ramon Valley beats a 7 seed on the road. So now those two square off tonight. First game of a doubleheader. You've got that. You've got San Ramon Valley Carondelet girls basketball that I know it's going to be at later, a rematch of what always seems to be a really exciting game between those two. But you've got that coming up. And then Clayton Valley falling to Granite Bay. Clayton Valley has that heroic win days before it beats Monroe Catholic for the NCSD1 title. Jake King's game-winning three there down the stretch. Wins that ball game a few days later. Clayton Valley's magical run comes to an end in the first round of NorCal. Granite Bay, the 16 seed, takes down Clayton Valley, ends its season. Monroe Catholic season was ended at home by Bellarmine. That's always a matchup that's been really, really close, and Bellarmine got the best of Monroe this go around. So now it's Bellarmine at Vanden. A lot of different upsets have happened. We've got some great matchups again. Carlmont as well, a 16 seed beating a 1 seed. It's the best time of year. It's probably the only way any of us can really say this. You look up and down, especially Tuesday night, was a lot of upsets. Open division, some crazy games too. It was De La Salle, 5 seed going to 4th seed in Midi and boys, and winning in the final seconds. Archon Salke hits a game-winning three there late. De La Salle gets the stops when they need to. And then the girls' side, Salesian comes back, wins at Folsom, wins in overtime. Micaiah Asadania, 27 points. A couple of players had double-doubles. She and Aaron Gardner did, and Salesian wins there on the road. And we'll play at Piedmont, the top seed in the semifinals of the Open Division at 7 p.m. Saturday.
That's going to be a fun matchup. I know Salesian wants another crack at them, especially after that loss to them at the MLK tournament at Bishop O'Dowd back in January. Now we know that Piedmont couldn't qualify for the NCS Open because they were a D4 team and it's only the top 3 divisions, but now they're the top seed in NorCal. They have some marquee wins over Midi, Salesian, O'Dowd. They beat Acalanes by 15. They've got a remarkable squad. Trinity Zamora is a San Diego State signee. Natalie Martinez is one of the best shooters around. Eva Livingston is a great player who just came over. Salesian's got all the pieces to make a run, but we also have to think about what Midi is going to be capable of, because remember, when they played Midi, they did not have 5-star Morgan Shelley, and she's going to be a big part along with McKenna Velichko, one of the best freshmen in the country.
Yeah, how about that week for Velichko too, right? WCAL MVP as a freshman. Later that day, Stanford offers Velichko, and Stanford won a national title there. 2021, they've made it to the Final Four many times under Tara Vanderveer. Probably will again if everything goes right this year. It's going to be different this time around. You would think Piedmont, though, earned that top seed, undefeated, beat Midi. It's going to be a barn burner there if those two teams do meet. If it is Midi Salesian, that's a great matchup too. Of course, a lot has to happen on Saturday. Who knows what the heck happens this time of year? But no, you got any games you're looking at, any big matchups you're looking at for these quarterfinals for all these divisions, and then semifinals for the Open?
Yeah, so for the quarterfinals, although I will not be at it, there is Sacred Heart Prep and San Ramon Valley, 2 teams that come up with big upsets in the Central Valley. I think TJ O'Brien's a great player, and they earned that victory out there in Folsom, that grindy, that gritty win 63 to 62. And then there was Cinema Valley going into Clovis North, taking them down by 4 points, and they're going to host at 5 p.m. tonight. What do you think that's going to happen in that matchup, Chris?
It's that championship DNA. It almost seems like both teams have right now. SHB hits a big shot. Santa Mo Valley did. The way I saw Santa Mo Valley perform against Salesian, I'm not going to lie, I thought their season was probably over in the first round of NorCal's, and just goes to tell you the schedule they've played, how good Salesian is as well, and just that schedule SRV's played. They're battle tested. They're at home. I think Santa Mo Valley does pull it out at home. It's going to be rocking there in Danville, as it always is. They've got some players, Shayna Steely, Parker McClaughley. There's a lot of different guys they can attack you with. I think this is another one of those games that actually does come to those last 3 or 4 possessions at home, though. I like what San Juan Valley has to pull off a win and get to the NorCal semifinals.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'd either play University or Salesian. I know they'd want to get another crack at Salesian. I mean, Salesian's defense was just phenomenal that game, holding the Wolves to their lowest total all season. Aaron Claytor is league MVP. Alvin Loving, Amani Johnson. They're just so deep and so well connected. So many unselfish players that make them such a remarkable team. But University coming off that big win against Jesuit, I know they have that All-American Andrei Stovakovic. He's a great player, Stanford commit. So University has definitely had those ups and downs throughout this season, but with what they've got, they could very well pull out an upset at Contrast College tonight at 7 o'clock.
It's two very contrasting styles too. Salesian just known for its defense, almost that grit and grind you would think about in a lot of ways that the Memphis Grizzlies were run for years. They're just gonna hold you in check, force you into tough shots, take you out of your game. It took Sarah out of its game, Santa Mo Valley out of its game. I want to say, I'm trying to remember. Let me pull up the stats actually from that game against Sarah the other night. I'm counting. Sarah hit 2 threes in the first quarter, never hit another 3 the rest of the game. Santa Mo Valley wasn't really hitting threes either when they played there. It's just Salesian's defense is really good, but University just put up 92 points in a high school game, 8-minute quarters on the road at Jesuit. Who can assert their will first? Who can assert their style first? Whoever does that, I think, is the winner of that game, right? If Salesian's defense rises to the challenge right away out of the gate, that's its game. But if University gets the tempo of that game in its favor, I think that's University's ball game, and they'll be going to the NorCal semifinals if they do that.
That'd be huge. I mean, it's March Madness, like you said. You don't know what's going to happen. Salesian, of course, is a great defensive team. They've shown that time and time again in these playoffs. But University is hungry for this. Joy Kennedy does not want his career to end. He's had a phenomenal tenure at University, and he wants to represent San Francisco well if they get a win against the regional powerhouse in Salesian.
Yeah, that's a really intriguing game I'm looking at tonight. Your girls' game as well. You've seen San Juan Valley's girls the last couple of nights. You just saw them actually won that first round game, right, too. They beat Sacred Heart Cathedral, got that revenge from that season opening game from San Juan Valley. That did not go its way there at the Marin Catholic tournament, comes back around. What are you looking at in that ball game? Because this is a game, those teams have really kind of split it these last few years. It was last year, the regular season, San Juan Valley wins, league championship, NCS championship games, Carondelet wins. Then this year in Danville again, San Juan Valley won that ball game, really finished that game strong. Amanda Kerner hit some big shots, as she always does. But what are you looking at there in Danville for that second game of that really crazy doubleheader you've got?
As you know, John Cristiano said, it's just going to come down to who executes better. They're both very well coached teams. Of course, Kelly Sopak is one of the best coaches in California. Cimarron Valley, a lot of people, predicted they'd fall off with the graduations of players like, Natalie Pasco and Sadie Carter, but their junior class just really stepped up. Amanda Kerner, Sophia Bowes, C.R. Chambers, Paige Valdaga, and many others have really gone up to the spotlight, and they were the runner-up in the NCS Open. That loss was tough. Salesian kind of locked them down with this rare press that they deploy in the final minutes, and then the game kind of got away from them, and Salesian took over. But San Ramon Valley, they showed what they're made of against Sacred Heart Cathedral with 11 threes in the game. Amanda Kerner had 13 points. Sophia Bowes had a big game, 9 points, 7 boards, a couple steals, and a block. I gotta like what San Ramon Valley's got, but then Carondelet, they're well coached. Layla Dixon, only a freshman, she's played really well. Allie Cummins scored her 1,000 points against Acalanes, and you got to think of many other pieces. Jamie Kent is signed to Pacific. So we're going to see how it goes. But I think San Ramon Valley slightly pulls it out.
Yeah, if San Ramon Valley just gets one of its shooters to catch fire, that's trouble for the other team because you've got Kerner can hit shots. Annika Lupinex had a lot of big games this year. You've got Sierra Chambers attacks you. Sophia Bowles just does literally everything. She's Draymond Green in a lot of ways, just maybe a little bit more under control. No technical fouls and everything else, but she hits big shots too. She goes inside, outside, rebounds, defends, and then that youngster they've got Avery Knapp is really stepping up at the right time. She did against Carl Newman. I like that matchup this year. I like what San Ramon Valley's got, the way they're playing. I think they're hungry. I'm with you. San Ramon Valley wins, and I think it's probably a 3-point ball game that comes down to the very end, and where either Amanda Kerner or Anna Kalupinek hits a really big shot to put that game away. Here's another one too. This is a very, very intriguing 5-13 matchup. Vanden at home against Bellarmine. I know you've seen Vanden earlier this year beating Campolindo and Bellarmine beating Moreau Catholic. I was kind of penciling in that Vanden Moreau Catholic ball game. Kind of had two really athletic teams, fun teams, and Bellarmine does what it does best. They grind that out, get a big road win. What are you kind of looking for in that one? And what is it about Vanden that maybe Bellarmine fans and Bellarmine needs to know about?
I think, Tyler Thompson's been hurt a lot, but when I saw him against Campolindo, he played really, really well. Had 31 points, 13, I believe 14 points in that third quarter, and they kind of took over that game. I know we've heard a lot about how the WCAL is down this year, but a lot of teams proved us wrong. Sacred Heart Cathedral proved us wrong by winning that championship. Sarah stepped it up at the right time, and Bellarmine has won 5 straight games. They came up with a big upset over Moreau Catholic. So it's going to be an intriguing style of play, but I have to give Vanden the edge because of how physical they are and how athletic. But Bellarmine could easily make an upset and advance to the regional semis.
Yeah, Bellarmine's going to make that a close game. They've traveled well on the road. WCAL, right? A down year in some ways, the way it looked on paper. Maybe it just speaks to how strong the league was too, top to bottom, right? Midi and Reardon were probably supposed to be the favorites to play for that CCS Open title. Neither one of them made it. And Midi's still in open division for NorCal. They did lose last night, right? But still, goes to show the quality of that league. Sarah makes it. Sacred Cathedral wins that really close game for the CCS Open title. Then has that tough draw against Granada in round 1. That Granada wins there, but I'm with you. I like what Vanden's got. I like the way their defense plays, especially when that defense really steps up the players they got. Thompson, McClanahan, so many different guys that are going to kind of attack you there. I think Vanden does continue this run, and they are going to have a very, very interesting matchup. Just looking at the schedule, if Vanden does win this game, they either play 9th seeded Whitney or 16th seeded Granite Bay there in the second or in the semifinals. I mean, there's just so much going up and down. I'm just going to read off some of these bigger matchups. Reardon gets Intercom. Probably need to have an over-under on, 10 and a half dunks in that game. Got to think with
Yeah,
Christian Wise and Reardon, then Intercom is why I may have been. Was it Darren
their
or
dunk party.
yeah, it was just the dunk party that they said it was, kind of like Fly Slam and Jam a little bit is what Intercom's got. Beat Dublin, a big first round win. That's an intriguing matchup I'm looking at. That Salesian University one's a big one. Oakland Tech's got a great doubleheader tonight. I'll be at too. Girls, Oakland Tech against Pine Woods girls, and then Oakland Tech's boys against Lincoln San Francisco boys as well.
I mean, a lot of action going on. Indercom and I know when Reardon faced off with Midi, they had like a combined 9 dunks. I think there's definitely going to be at least 8 combined dunks in this game against Reardon. It's just so much athleticism on display. Indercom's a really good team. They're well coached and they're just fun to watch. They're a show. They put on a show.
Yeah, they are. That's going to be a good one tonight. An intriguing 1-8 matchup in girls D1 as well is St. Mary's Stockton against Bishop O'Dowd. They've played before St. Mary's did one. Bishop O'Dowd, though, is really playing well at the right time. Those freshmen, let me tell you, if I told you you're a freshman, you watched them, you'd probably be just shaking your head wondering what the heck is going on because Lizzie Quinteros, Devin Cosgrove, and you got Savannah Jones, that junior. It's just remarkable. Had an amazing NCS championship game to beat Moreau Catholic. That's an intriguing matchup as well. That Granada game, Granada and 9 seed, that top seeded Clovis West. Granada's got the pieces to make a run. If they're really having Navon Long stepped up recently, Nate Keeney's healthy, then you've got McKeever, you've got Tyler Harris as well. So that's another matchup I'm looking at to where potentially another number 1 seed might go down tonight if Granada's tripped it. down there to that Clovis Fresno area as well.
I mean, we got to give a shout out to St. Ignatius. They played Clovis really, really tough for much of the game. They only lost by 5 points as a 16 seed. Clovis has been one of the best teams all year with the talent they've got. Specifically Clovis West, I think. Yeah, Clovis West. So they played them really tough in that game. But Granada is upset minded. They beat Cigar Cathedral on the road. They have got right pieces. Tyler Harris is a great guard. Andrew McKeever heading to St. Mary's next year. Navon Long and Nate Keeney are also really underrated components of that team. And they played Doherty Valley very tough. One of the only E-ball teams to play them that tough this year. Of course, they lost to Monte Vista. We know that Ryan Beasley was up that game, but Granada can really compete with some of these upper division teams as well.
Yeah, they can. That's one of those matchups that I'm really looking at. And also, yeah, like you said, credit to St. Ignatius. That's its team that graduated over 10 seniors from last year. We're supposed to take a step back, right? There's not a single program that can just replace 10, 11 seniors like that, especially that senior class they had that made a deep run last year and come back like and they gave a top seed a run for their money there on the road. So that's going to be a fun game in Clovis. I'm actually going to pick Granada to win that game. I like the pieces Granada's got. And I think it's the EBA up again, right? De La Salle goes on the road. They win. Doherty Valley's got an amazing matchup as well, too, that, I'll let you get into in a minute because that's a really, really sleeper 2-3 matchup, maybe, right? We may have penciled in the stars are aligning for Doherty Valley, but the stars could be aligning for St. Joseph's as well when it comes to that matchup on Saturday night in San Ramon.
They've St. Joseph. There, first of all, there's never been a Benoit or Beninese player who's made the NBA. Tondi Asofu is going to change that. He's that fun to watch. He's like a LeBron type player. I saw at MOK. His athleticism, his quickness, his basketball IQ are all off the charts. He's only been in the United States for a few years, but he's made a home at St. Joseph. They're kind of known for taking in these international prospects. He's averaging 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 steals a game as a sophomore. 5-star, has 8 offers, including UCLA, Arizona, and Arkansas. So it's going to be really tough to see how a player like Blake Hudson is going to match up on him. But Doherty Valley with their guard play and that team chemistry, I've got to give them the slight edge by about 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, it's tough to pick against Doherty at this point. The stars are aligning. It just seems like Doherty's type of year to keep this thing going at least to a NorCal championship game. When you've got that third scorer coming along like Blake Hudson, Audie Molley as well. What about the way he stepped up? I think the last month or so, it was that De La Salle game in the regular season. He hit some big shots, and then just from there, he just kept it going and going. I think he had 11 of 13 points in one of the quarters in the NCAA championship. I want to say.
I think that was against Granada, but you're right. He did step up in big ways. Many players, stepped up in big ways. He's hit some big shots. I think he had 10 points in the championship. All of them came in the second half, but he was essential. They go down by 4, but what does Doherty Valley do? They respond. They stick their bread and butter. They hit some shots. Blake Hudson had a couple of big shots down the fourth quarter, put them up by 10 with about 2 minutes left. They kind of knew at that point, of course, they could have come back, but at that point they knew that they pretty much could taste that championship. They've never won a championship. That changed this year.
Now let's have a little fun with this. Give me one pick for these next few days. This, I guess, quarterfinals for every division and maybe semifinals for every division. Just give me one pick that is a lock that a certain team's going to win. Then give me an upset pick that you're looking at.
I'm gonna be honest. I can't give you a lock. It's March.
I get that.
Okay, so I think for a lock for division for boys basketball, I gotta give it to. Look, I love University, but I gotta give Salesian a lock for that defense. I think they're gonna win that. As for an upset, I got Granada taking down Clovis West for boys.
Yeah, my one lock is I'm gonna take it as Oakland High School, a 9 seed hosting 16 seeded Carlmont. Oakland's a really good 9 seed in Division 3. By the way, I think that team's better than a D3 program. If we're being honest with you, there. So is Oakland Tech and some of those teams in that division. I'm gonna make that the lock, and then the upset pick. Do I want to copy with Granada? No, but yes, I am. I am because I've got confidence Granada is going to go on the road there and win there in Clovis to advance to the NorCal semifinals. And the way that bracket shakes out, whoever wins that game, either has to face Reardon or Indercombe on Saturday night. So whoever it is between those two would be a lot of fun to watch. If it's Granada and Indercombe, that's a fun one. Granada or Reardon, you don't want to miss that either. So we've got some fun matchups coming on. Be sure to obviously follow it West Coast Preps underscore on Twitter, westcoastpreps.com. But before we wrap this up, let's talk a little reform. I know there's always going to be controversy, questions arise no matter what system it is, but we're seeing a lot with this, just seedings, how everything shakes out, different sections on different rules. Or just your thoughts, maybe ideas on reform, some things that can change, or just even your thoughts on the bracket.
Well, I don't agree with only 5 teams in the open division. I think it was 7 teams last year. That I think that turned out to be a lot better. I know, players are burned out, they're trying to rest players, but at the same time, there were many teams that are deserving of that bid in the open division. They didn't get it. I think Cinnamon Valley could have maybe been in the open division. They did lose, but they got the 3 seed, which is obviously better for them from an on paper standpoint. But I think there needs to be some reforms in the system to an extent rewards losing. Only a couple seeds got number 1 seeds, Clayton Valley, Modesto Christian. I think there's another one. There was a lot, and there was some other ones, but for the most part, the system kind of to an extent rewards losing. And last year, as we remember, Aquilines girls wins the D2 championship. They get slotted in the Division 1 as the 16th seed against Salesian. So that really wasn't fair to them.
No, that wasn't. And that same part with Salesian was a great run for them, right? But Salesian had lost in the NCS Open Division semifinals to San Ramon Valley. SRV gets put into the Open. For girls, they have to face Midi. Not a whole lot you could do as any program to compete with Midi. Then Salesian goes on and wins a state title. So if you're San Ramon Valley, you're probably sitting there, you're like, wow, what if we lost? I know you don't want to have that thought cross your mind, but it's natural. Like that could have been us going on that run, right? We could have been there playing at Sacramento, hanging the state championship banner, having some of that glory, and it just doesn't happen. And it was even Oakland Tech's girls last year, they won state. Was there happiness? Yes, but they were clamoring after. Why weren't we put in a higher division? Oakland Tech wanted to be in a higher division because they thought they should have been. They were one of those teams that maybe had won a lot, but just wasn't put in the right division. It's kind of strange. There's just no consistency from what I've seen. I was talking to one coach this morning. I'm setting up a lot of different things with coaches, trying to create maybe just a model of maybe one way to reform it. I'm seeing how it's going. It might take a month or two to work on it because I'm trying to jot down everything different coaches say, their ideas. Maybe I'll just jot down all of theirs into one story, kind of see all the different ideas, and maybe another one where we kind of all come together. Maybe all of us at West Coast Reps also do, and kind of go with what they say. Maybe create our own model. Maybe that's something we should do here in the coming months. But there's a lot that's got to change. It's the seedings. I know there were a lot of questions about seedings too. Like Oakland's in D3, Oakland Tech in D3. I think those teams are better than that. Branson, to be honest with you, I think Branson's better than a D2 team. They're better than some of those teams I'm seeing in D1. And Branson was a team we also mentioned got snubbed from the Open Division, I would at least say, for NCS. So they're kind of ranking teams, but they're not. I don't know. I'm still not sure what the criteria is for this and the way divisions work. And another thing too is if you're Open Division, if you're the Open Division, right, from a section, every team that makes the Open gets a bid to the state playoffs, which makes sense. Nobody's going to argue that. But then D1 through D3, it's usually 2 teams get in those divisions. Then D4 through 6, you're pretty much getting the top 4 teams, and maybe you get a third team from D1, like a Cal High gets it as an at-large bid. But there's just a lot of different scenarios that there's a lot of disagreements about. There's no consistency. I'm trying to look at other states' models, like the way they do it in Texas. It's based on enrollment. And if you win a division, it feels like it means a lot, no matter what division is, because you're the best of the best for that. And even if you're the best D2 team, D3, D4, whatever it is, D6, 6A is the big division, then it goes down. It's the opposite of out here with, right, D1 Open, D1's the biggest, then D2, smaller, and D3 and all that. But it seems like no matter which one you win there, just it feels different. And sometimes I don't know, there's no consistency. You get rewarded for losing instead of winning. Like that Akalani situation last year didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm trying to figure it out and I just can't. And then when you've got a team that wins state last year and they're clamoring to be put up, and I'm glad Oakland Tech got put up into D1 because I think they could really make a run at state and D1. They're that good for girls hoops. So, but they wanted this and they had questions about it too. And how could they not? I think we all do at this point. And there's no real transparency. Is one thing I was told this morning speaking with a coach. No transparency, no consistency. Really, what they want at least is just transparency and an explanation. If you give them an explanation and some transparency, okay, whatever. Maybe we don't agree, but at least you gave me something, right? That, and then you watch. There's more money, and I know I'm kind of going on a little ramble and tangent, but you watch some other things like college sports, right? There's more money, of course, on ESPN, but you get someone that explains it, like college football playoff. Someone from the committee comes on and says, "Hey, like this is what we saw here. This is why they were given the fourth spot." Or an NCAA tournament, right? This is why we kind of put this team in here as an 11 seed, gets one of those last bids, last four buys, whatever it is, first or last four in, all those different things. There's no transparency, no consistency is the biggest thing. And then the other biggest thing that you're having is every section operates under different rules. CCS has different postseason format than NCS, right? So NCS, some of it's enrollment, some of it's competitive equity. CCS, it's pretty much just you ranked, and then it kind of goes open and then ranked from D1 to those last divisions as well. And then they have pool play for open. NCS does not have pool play. Southern section operates by different rules. Different sections have different transfer rules. Private schools have different ways of operating than public schools. So there's a lot of different scenarios that have to be taken into account. And I'm just going to go back to I think people just want consistency.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Oakland, first of all, they should not have been in D3 or 9 seed. I mean, they won by 28 points against an 8 seed. And I think even if Los Alamos did win, I think Oakland still would have been the favorite to move on. Honestly, I can see a path for Oakland going to the regional finals.
Yeah,
They can beat either Pinole Valley or Kings Academy if they get past Carlmont, and then I could see them beating an Oakland Tech team. I mean that when they play, that's physical. Lincoln, Joseph Siena, I can see them beating all those teams. I think a 9 seed could very well make it to the state championship and play in Sacramento this year.
yeah. The way I'm looking at that division, I'm kind of thinking one of the Oakland schools comes out of it. Now, who knows? Maybe Lincoln, San Francisco goes on a run with the Aquinos, and right now you've got that transfer from Reardon that's played just remarkable basketball. I like one of those Oakland schools to come out of that division, and even if they went to another division and lost, okay, well, so be it. But I think more so take this as a sign of respect that you guys are better than where you were put. They're far better. Oakland Tech's been ranked much of this year. Oakland High has, and they are seeded. Yeah, I don't get that how Oakland's a 9 seed in D3 for NorCal. How many teams would that mean that were slotted ahead of them? You had 5 in the open and then 16 every other division. So it would be just math off the top of my head, right? So that's 5. You've got 16, 21. You've got 37 and then 8. So you got 4. They're saying 45 teams in Northern California are better than Oakland High, is what you're trying to tell me right now? I think your mic is off, Noah. Can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, you saw these Oakland teams. They played some tough teams. Oakland Tech, they played a lot of tough teams. They went to Gridley. They played teams like they played teams in the NorCal tip off. They played Camp Lindo and other teams. You gotta give them the respect they deserve. They're a tough team. Like you said, one of the toughest group of kids you've ever coached, or not coached, seen and witnessed. You got to put some respect on their name. And Oakland Tech, like Amari Muhammad, they just play such great defense. They grind out wins, and they could very well play in the state championship this in about 10 days.
Is some of it in a way maybe people perceive Oakland basketball to be not as strong, and same with Marin County? Like it seems like there's almost a perception in some ways that heck maybe Oakland Tech can't hang with some of these teams when in reality they've beaten a lot of them and have fun. And look at their schedule. They probably should have won at Clayton Valley. They didn't have Amari Muhammad in that game either. He was out for a little bit. They've played great basketball since. They beat Oakland High 3 times this season, and they may have to beat them a fourth. We'll see. Whatever we're predicting very well may be wrong tonight in a couple of hours, right? But I'm just not understanding why Oakland Tech's not viewed as good as it should, because they've scheduled tough. They should be rewarded for it, and I think I even think they could They have an argument to be in the top half of the seeds in D2.
Yeah, and then you saw like Pinewood. They went down to the 10th seed. They pulled out that big win against Alcalanis. I mean, that was a great coaching matchup. Margaret Gardner and Doc Shepler. Doc Shepler has led them to a lot of great wins, a lot of great titles. You know, Pinewood can make a run. They're facing Oakland Tech. Oakland Tech is really, really good, but that's going to be an interesting matchup tonight that you're going to be at, and I think that's going to come down to, the final few minutes of the game.
Yeah, it is, and they've played each other earlier this year, like you had mentioned, and went Oakland Tech's way. The way Pine was playing now, getting more players healthy, young players really stepping up. In addition to Ava Urick really just getting more and more comfortable to this Pinewood system. It's hard to pick against Doc Shepler this time of year. It's nearly impossible for what that man's done for really decades. If you have a chance, watch Doc Shepler's just YouTube videos, interviews, everything else. You're going to learn more about basketball in just a 20-minute interview with him than you will from watching years worth of basketball on TV or a film of it just by listening to that man for 20 minutes. But Oakland Tech's tough too. I think they embody their head coaches in both boys and girls. They've got this grit, this toughness. They hit big shots when they need to. And Amari Muhammad on the boys' side embodies that. And then the girls, Marison Beachian, Aaron Sellers. You've got freshmen really stepping up too. You got a really strong big girl, Sofia Askugan Galvez. That matchup inside actually with her and Ava Ulrich, if I'm thinking about it, it's going to be a really fun one to watch. Whoever stays out of foul trouble is probably the team that wins that game.
Yeah. And before we kind of wrap this up, I want to go over some of our like predictions for awards. Of course, they can change. I want to start with boys basketball player of the year. There's a lot of them. I'm thinking, Ryan Beasley, Connor Sevilla, those guys, they played really well. There are many others who have picked up some offers in recent days. Of course, the E-ball we know is the best league in Northern California. So many teams, so many great players. Who are your awards for boys and girls basketball?
Some front runners I'm thinking about the two door you're thinking, right? Sevilla, Brian Beasley, definitely contenders. Andrew McKeever, what he's done at Granada, he's been a consistent 20, 25, and 15 guy every single night. Jace Butler, league MVP at Branson, what he's done all year. He's another guy up there. Joey Kennedy, Derek Sixer is a WCAL MVP. Elite defender. You've got to reward that too. And he hits some big shots. He can score a lot of different ways. A really good two-way wing there. Those are, I know there's ones off the top of my head that I'm probably passing on. Sam Norris is up there from Sacred Heart Prep with the season he's put together. Logan Robeson from Camp Lindo has been phenomenal. Tyler Thompson, when healthy, Advanden's been terrific too. Those are probably the ones I'm looking at as my top. And then AJ Harris, of course, from Piedmont. What that man did, he became the school's all-time scoring leader in the NCS quarterfinals.
He did that in 2.5 years. That's what makes it so much more impressive. And then there, some other players you have. And then for the girls' side, Ava Urich, she's been phenomenal for Pinewood, that transfer from Burlingame. And then McKenna Velichko, she's doing things about a freshman is doing things we've never really seen before. She's the best freshman in the country. There's no question about that anymore. The debate's been settled. She's averaging 20 and 10 on one of the best teams in the country, while playing alongside a 5-star and many others. 3 more years of her under Sue Phillips. That's a scary thought to think about.
The freshman MVP in that league and maybe a player of the year by multiple people across Northern California this year. And she's a freshman and she's already one of the best players in America, not just in her class, but all classes combined. She's already one of the best players in America. And she's
easily
freshman in high school.
She's only been playing organized basketball for a couple of years, which is wild to think about.
It looks like she's played for years, if we're being honest, to the way she gets to her spots. It's very ridiculous is the only way to put it. So she's up there. You think, Welichko's up there. Grayson Levette from Marin Catholics had a phenomenal year. She's a league MVP again. Got to give her a lot of credit there. Piedmont's top players like Natalia Martinez, Trinity Zamora, Eva Livingston are all up there as well, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Rika Apramian from Evergreen Valley. She's averaging over 30 points a game. Just ridiculously talented player. She's only a junior. She'll be back for another year. Those are definitely my top candidates for the girls basketball athlete of the year.
Yeah. And we're going to come close to wrapping this up. I wanted to remind everyone that this is a very sensitive time of the year. A lot of careers are ending. A lot of dreams are are reaching the finish line. A very small percentage are able to play college sports. I think under 8%. So just remember that there's nothing like high school sports. Cherish it. Cherish every moment. You don't know what game will be your last. So appreciate what you have for the time being.
Yeah, especially if you're at these games, right? It was last night too. It was the perfect example. I'm watching De La Salle have this heroic win, all these amazing emotions from their side, players hugging each other, jumping on each other, smiling like there's no tomorrow, hang out on that court for probably 45 minutes. Then you look at Midi and there's seniors, the heads down, just crying, just dejected because their high school careers are over. And some of them are going to play collegiately, but that's still the end of their time in high school. No matter what, this is probably the times they're going to remember the most is these high school days playing for their school, their communities, whatever it is. Just remember that, be mindful of that. They're 17, 18-year-old kids saying goodbye to a lot of them saying goodbye to their sports careers. A lot of them will never play competitive sports again at any level. They'll play it at the gyms, maybe club sports at the next level, but it's not this, right? They're going to go on, make careers in whatever they do, business, finance, real estate, engineering, agency, lawyers, whatever the heck it is. But just be mindful of it because it's fun to watch teams win, but on the other side, don't forget there's another side that's just reeling in that locker room, having a tough post game message and hugging each other and going through that grind and that war one more time together.
I saw that last year when Aiden Mahaney missed that potentially game tying shot against Modesto Christian. It rattled in and out. And I mean, I know he's playing collegiately. He's a star on St. Mary's, but that was tough for him. I could just see the emotions going through him as he sat on that bench, dejected that he just lost. He just missed the chance to make it to the state title game.
And if there was anyone that was going to hit that shot, it was Mahaney too. That thing went all but going into. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way either. Remember that. It's going to suck, that feeling of losing. I don't think any of us like losing, but if you do lose, you've made it this far anyway, right? Don't forget that. Remember those accomplishments. It probably won't sink in right as that final buzzer sounds. It might not sink in for a couple of days or weeks, but just be mindful of that even for yourself if you are on that losing end of the stick in some of these big games. Just cherish it while it happens because it's already March 2nd, right? It feels like we just started the fall sports season. Cherish it and remember those accomplishments you made because just like that, you're going to be living in a whole new city at a whole new school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we've got, though. I appreciate Noah, as always, for coming on. Be sure to follow us, West Coast Preps _ on social media. We'll have plenty of game coverage again tonight, and then westcoastpreps.com for all your stories, features, game recaps, rankings, and everything else.